One, we're live.
Okay, thank you. And once again, good afternoon to everyone. This beautiful, I think, first day of spring, and feels like summer almost. So thanks so much for coming out. Maybe the next meeting we can hold it outside if it's this nice out there. I want to also welcome our online attendees to which I believe this is our first TSHC corporate governance meeting for this year, 2025. So I want to acknowledge some of the exciting recognitions we have for this month, holidays, so to speak. March is, as everyone knows, is Irish Heritage Month. It is also Bangladeshi Heritage Month, Hellenic Month, and Persian Heritage Month, with the Persian New Year taking place on March 21st. And also March 21st is Passover. We had a productive meeting, our last meeting on November 21st, during which we shaped the governance work plan and discussed important items, including 3 committee work plans for CGHRC and AFRC and QTech as well. So today, we got a full agenda, as we have many times, starting with reviewing our CGHRC 25 work plan. And then we're going to hear an update from our CEO, followed by people and culture, the new people and culture dashboard. We'll also go through the TSHC policy work plan update, review the draft annual report, and have a presentation on our inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility strategy diversity lens, which is an approval item as well. After that, we will do as we always do, move in camera in the in-camera session, return to public to approve the in-camera session decisions that we take at that time. And that's it. So with that, I'm going to move to the land acknowledgement part of this meeting. So the Toronto Seniors Housing acknowledges that we are on the traditional territory of the many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, and the Chippewa and Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13, signed by the Mississaugas of the Credit, and the Williams Treaty, signed by with multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa bands. And the African Ancestral Acknowledgement, Toronto Seniors Housing acknowledges all treaty peoples, including those who came here as settlers, as migrants, either in this generation or in generations past, and those of us who came here involuntarily, particularly those brought to these lands as a result of the transatlantic slave trade and slavery. We pay tribute to those ancestors of African origin and descent. And now we will go to item number 3.
Excuse me.
Sorry, is my mic off?
I tried to tidy up a bit. If this could be gone when she comes.
Sorry, Brenda, is that you? Is there something you wanted to? Okay, I'm not sure what
I think
there.
she was accidentally unmuted, Mr. Chair, so we're good to go.
Oh, we're good? Okay, thank you, Carol. Okay, item 3. First, let me ask, are there any new business items and amendments to this agenda? And hearing none, may I have a member move that the March 19th, 2025 CGHRC public meeting agenda be approved as presented? And so I need a mover and a seconder.
So move, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Fareed. And a seconder from, did I hear Brenda? Brenda will second that one. Thank you, Brenda. Okay. With all so be it resolved that the March 19th CGHRC public meeting agenda is approved as presented. Item 4, any conflict of interest on this agenda? Okay, with no conflicts having been declared, we'll move to item 5. Are there any amendments to the CGHRC public session minutes of November 21st, 24? Okay. There being none, may I have the CGHRC member move that the CGHRC's November 21st, 24 public session minutes be approved as presented. And once again, I need a mover and a seconder. Brenda, thank you. And seconder, Lawrence, thank you. Lawrence is seconding. So then be it resolved that the November 21st public session minutes are approved as presented. Now we go to item 6. Are there any amendments to the CGHRC closed session minutes? Once again, I need a mover and a seconder for this one as well.
So moved,
Brenda,
Chair.
thank you, and Fareed, thank you. So then be it resolved that the November 21st closed session minutes are approved as presented. And now item 7, action items. Any comments or additions to the action item list? And at this point in time? No? Okay, then this doesn't require approval apparently, so we'll just continue and go to item 8. And Grant, I think I pass this on to you to discuss the CGHRC 25 work plan, and pass it on to you now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Crisanti, and good afternoon, everybody. So through the chair and in the package, we have a view of the meeting work plan for CGHRC for each of the meetings throughout the year. And Karen, would it be possible to bring that up on screen very quickly? Thank you so much. That was very quickly. So and maybe you could zoom in just a touch. It's a little small. Thank you. So as we've done for each of the committees, we've put together a work plan of the anticipated planned topics to come forward at each of the meetings. So this is similar to what's been presented and brought forward at AFRC, the Audit, Finance and Risk Committee, and the Quality and Tenant Engagement Committee. You can see for today's meeting, the Q1 meeting, all the topics that are there. And as Councillor Crisanti, you noted earlier, will be on today's agenda. In Q2, or the meeting in June, we have an update on the governance work plan, the People and Culture dashboard, which you see here today for the first time, and that'll be coming forward in future meetings. We also have some aspects around the committees themselves, the governance work plan terms of reference for each of the committees for the board. There'll be an update on the TSHC employee onboarding and the TSHC TCHC legal agreements. In Q3, in our September meeting, there'll be a governance work plan update, and continuing with a people and culture update, we'll have the in-year CEO performance planner update and a further update on the legal agreements. And then finally in November, we'll have the annual people and culture update, governance work plan, and continuing with TSHC, TCHC legal agreements. Of course, each of these agendas is planned in more detail as we proceed closer to the actual meetings, but this gives the committee a perspective and plan for the year. And I'll take any questions.
Okay, questions, Fareed?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think I know the answer to this question, but I'll ask it for the benefit of the committee, Grant and Tom. I'm assuming that the work plan for this committee and the other committees are kind of benchmarked against the strategic plan and the strategic objectives, right? So is that a fair assumption?
Yes, so through the chair, yes, Fareed. So there are aspects associated with initiatives and actions that are in the strategic directions, and there's alignment to when they come forward through the committee process, and then in some cases to board. So we do look at how the timing is lined up in the strategic directions for items that would come forward through committee.
Thanks.
Any other, Brenda? Go ahead. Brenda, I think you're muted, I believe. Can't hear you, Brenda.
Karen, are you able to?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're
sorry.
you're here now. We could hear you now. Go ahead.
All right, sorry about that. me and my usual technical incompetence. The legal agreements, which is repeated in each quarter, are we, by legal agreements, we're referring to what? Our stakeholder relationship with TCHC? Is that what we're referring to?
So through the chair, yes. So we'll be looking at
Okay.
the two current agreements we have with Toronto Community Housing. And there'll be a bit more of an update on that in camera today as well.
Okay. And the there was one other thing here. I'll leave it at that. I think other questions will be answered as we go through today's work. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Brenda. And just the last call for any additional questions. Okay, so thank you. So at this point, we'll go to item 9. And this is where Tom will go through his CEO update. And then, of course, when that's done, any questions, I'm sure Tom will be happy to answer those. Tom, over to you.
Yes, through the chair to the committee, good afternoon. And just wanting to start with highlighting later in the agenda, there will be Carol will be providing more information on our enhanced or our IDEA strategy, right? Inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility. And so it's really this bit of a milestone for us in terms of having this strategy together. There, since the inception of the corporation, there has been a lot of work in this space, but this really is just putting kind of a framework and then the subsequent kind of strategy moving forward, to get really very kind of specific. And you'll see kind of our actions as it relates to the strategy over the months and years. So very, very pleased to be sharing that with the group. And it looks at the kind of the 4 core pillars that have been kind of established through work and through the consultation process. And then, as I mentioned earlier on, kind of the timeliness moving forward, a 3-phase plan. So that Carol will certainly provide you more information, but just really for us, this is very significant to be bringing this forward today. Also, we have completed and have got the results of our employee pulse survey. So towards, I guess, 2023, we did the complete employee pulse survey. And so towards the end of 2024 into 2025, we did a pulse survey. So asked some core questions and then some very kind of duplicative questions so that we could get a sense of where we had made gains or still need to do work based on the previous survey. And really, we had very good participation rate again in that survey at 76%. It was 79% a first time around. But that just we've in the areas where we they were very similar in terms of our results, both in kind of the strengths of the survey, but areas that we still need to work on. So that becomes very helpful in terms of that kind of continued focus and where we need to focus with our employees in terms of the supports, both to continue the good work that they're doing, but then where can we help in terms of the improvement of processes or issues. So and certainly there will be more coming forward to the board on that pulse survey, but just wanting to let you know that is now that the results are back to us. That's fantastic. Also on the cybersecurity training for board members, just once again the importance of cybersecurity, and we have emphasized the importance of this awareness. And Carol will be sending out an email. You'll get an email regarding this, just in terms of if you have completed equivalent training through another organization, that you can submit the training acknowledgement form as outlined in Carol's email, and this will just help to ensure that we get that compliance in terms of the training of our board members. So just kind of watch for that one, and just finalizing my update just around the director recruitment. You all would have received the email about Dina Veltri, who will be starting as our director of engagement, partnership, and communication. So I think at our board member, we said there would be Arlene's last meeting, and then so now this is, we get to say goodbye to Arlene several times, but thanking her. But Deanna, although she doesn't start until April, she has already been to Toronto Seniors, has met with some of the staff, so she is keen, and certainly it's been so far it'll be a good introduction. She'll have a good onboarding with the staff. So that's my update for today for the public session. Thanks.
That's great. Thank you so much, Tom. Appreciate that. And so it's got to be a question or two there, no? Brenda, go ahead.
Oh.
Thank you, Brenda. Brenda, unmute, please. You're still muted. It shows that you're muted at my end.
Yep. Sorry about that.
You're good now. Okay.
The employee pulse survey, you mentioned it was done the end of 2024. Has that been tabulated yet, the results?
Yes, through the chair. So yes, the results have been tabulated. So we're just starting the internal rollout, right, with being presented to the leadership and extended leadership team this week. So that is just started. So certainly have more information for the board.
And that will come to the board as well?
Yes.
Yeah, good. That's all. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay. Any further follow-ups, questions, comments? All right. There being none, we will then move to item number 10, where Carol will go through the People and Culture dashboard. And again, once that's finished, we can then ask questions or make some comments at that point. Carol, thank you.
Thank you. Through the chair. So can you all hear me okay?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So yeah, so
mine.
as Tom likes to note, I usually start out by saying things like, I'm very excited. So this time I'll reserve it and I'll switch it up. I'll say I'm pleased to present the PNC dashboard to you. This is the initial dashboard, mainly qualitative in nature, or quantitative in nature, which we are working to pull various reporting stats, charting our progress. So as we go through, we have highlighted recruitment, the overall recruitment for Q1 to Q4 of 2024. And you'll see that we are newly hired individuals based on our unions and management exempt staff. One of the no small feat to our small but mighty team, 175 interviews conducted. That is all encompassing. So a lot of work went into that there. When we look at our average headcount for the last quarter, we will see, again, sorted by management exempt, our local 416 and local 79. Our turnover rate data was pulled for Q4, so we'll have some comparison data when we look at Q1 2025. What is really good is our turnover rate is quite low at 0.3%, and our vacancy rate is quite low at 4.39%. I think we have an anticipated vacancy rate of 6%, so we're far below that. And when I pulled up some information just comparing what vacancy rates are, they range between 0 and 10% and 5 to 8%. So doing quite well there. From our absenteeism rate, this data is mainly looking at absenteeism from an ill with pay, and it's relating to the number of hours, not people. We don't have 4,600 people, and I'm not sure what 0.25 of a person would look like, but these are our hours, related to our hours with pay. There's no concern here with respect to the way absenteeism is here at TSHC, but this is Q1 to Q4 data. Again, we'll have some comparative data at the next report. From a joint health and safety perspective, looking at this, we conducted 9 in-person meetings, inspected all 83 buildings, so this is great. And then we had we addressed 3 Ministry of Labor, Immigration and Training and Skills Development matters, including 2 COVID-19 cases that we had. And then we also have some last time data for Q4. Again, this is the baseline we're setting, and then we will look at what that looks like in Q1 of 2025 and do some comparative analysis there. And then training opportunities, you'll see we had quite a few. What we've listed here are some of the compliance ones that we've initiated in terms of our AODA, cybersecurity training, our NCI training. So that is nonviolent crisis intervention training. That is required of our staff, of certain staff members every 2 years. And so that is, we've noted that. Again, the code in AODA, and then understanding dementia. And then when we look at some of the training opportunities, we've got quite a few training opportunities coming up that we had either in 2024 or moving forward in 2025. One of them that two of them that I would like to sort of bring to your attention. One, we have Leading with Impact that we are offering to our people leaders right now. And then one that we will be launching in April in partnership with the North Innovation Center at the University Health Network is Aging in the Community. So this is also a seniors lens training that we're looking at initiating. So this is the dashboard, and we'll have updates as we move along throughout the year. Any questions for me?
Thank you, Carol. And yeah, questions, anyone? Great presentation, by the way. There's a lot of good information here, and I really appreciate the work and time that you and your team put into that. Appreciate that. Brenda, I think you saw your hand. Yeah, but you got to unmute once again, please.
Sorry, I'm going between two screens here, so it's a little confusing. The training for nonviolent crisis intervention you mentioned was mandatory training. Is that for frontline staff?
Yes, essentially, yeah.
And does that include the supervisors?
I believe so, but I would be able to check and respond to you.
I'm just thinking. Go ahead, sorry.
My understanding would be yes, that they are included, but I will confirm exactly who is included in the training.
Yeah, is it done on site or do they go off site for that training?
So through the chair, we partner with TSHC, and they actually are certified to deliver the training, and it's delivered on. Mm-hmm.
Great. No, I just mentioned that because it's good safety training for staff, and I would highly encourage it because people are more volatile these days, and just to equip the staff with the skills of knowing how to diffuse and deflect.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda, and Fareed.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks, Carol. It's a great presentation. I just had one comment. I mean, I think information is great, as Councillor Crisanti mentioned. I was wondering, though, if in future reports we can have some indication of what has been accomplished in these various categories. So we've got the kind of training that is contemplated and the target audience, but I think it might be beneficial for us to also see how many of staff have actually completed those training as we go in from quarter to quarter. So it's more of a not only prospective but retrospective as well.
Yes, thank you. Through the chair, for sure. We can easily provide that information. Thank you.
Okay, there being no other questions, I don't believe, then we will just move to item number 11, which is the TSHC policy work plan update. And Grant will go through the policy work plan update for us. Go ahead, Grant. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Crisanti. So through the chair, the report before committee today is similar to a report we brought forward at an early meeting of the CGHRC last year, where we provide a picture of the policy work for an upcoming period, and in this case, the next 2 years. This is all based on the policy management framework that we developed last year for TSHC. So the context for this work is in the policy management framework, which we also brought forward last year. Currently, TSHC has 105 policies, There are a couple of tables in the report that articulate policies in a couple of different views. One of them shows the policies by the different policy categories. So you can get a sense of how many policies are in each of the categories of, types of policies, things like communications, finance and risk, governance, etc. And then another table shows the category of the status of policies. So the sort of the action or follow-up required associated with the 105. So this would be things like policies that have more substantive revisions, some that are minor edits, new policies that are being potentially considered, etc. as well. In 2024, there were 22 policies that were approved, 14 of those through committee and board, and 8 at the leadership team. And we also reformatted 11 policies. So that's a grand total of 33 policies last year of the 105. And in 2025 and 2026, we have a total of 31 policies. They're in the attachments attachment 2 on the report, which shows 17 policies in 2025 this year and 14 in 2026, and then the corresponding committee path forward for each of those. A number of those are in different domains. I won't go into the specifics of each of them. I will note that when we originally developed the policy plan, and from last year that we brought forward, we also looked at things like the Health Commons report, the input on tenant priorities on policies. We also looked at the policy life cycle for renewals on policies and tried to build that into the picture as well. So there's a significant amount of work underway and planned in the policy space for this year and next. This, of course, is a plan. And as we go through the year, we may look and reflect upon adjustments to this. But at this stage, this is what we're moving forward with in 2025 and planning for next year. And I'll take any questions.
Okay, any questions for Grant? Brenda, yeah, please go ahead, Brenda. And you're already unmuted, so we're good. Or no, you are muted. I apologize. Brenda, you need to unmute.
There.
There you go.
No, just a vote of thanks. I know this is a lot of work, and I just want to acknowledge the work the staff did and the thoroughness. And it's tedious work. It's not sexy, So, but I'm appreciative of the work the staff did. So just kudos to the staff on this.
Thank you.
And Fareed.
Yeah, just a quick comment, Mr. Chair. I mean, I think these policies are great. And again, staff have done a tremendous amount of work. But Grant, I was hoping that we can also look at some consolidation of policies and bringing together and some elimination. To have over 100 policies, is a bit of a challenge to keep track of. So, any opportunity to consolidate, streamline might be in order as well.
Yes, no, through the chair, that's a valid for sure. We did retire some policies in the past. Yeah. We do have one scheduled for retirement right now, which is not much. However, we are always looking at how to optimize the policy landscape because of the sheer number of policies that have to be managed as well. So as we look at the new policies, for example, we're testing whether or not we can consolidate or bring certain policy items together. And so that number may be a little bit less over time.
Yeah, thank you, Grant. And I'll just add quickly. First of all, I'll echo the comments both Brenda and Fareed made as well. A lot of work always goes into policies, and if there are opportunities to combine and optimize the whole list of policies, for the purpose of clarity, for the purpose of ease, for the purpose of just being more efficient, is this something, Grant, that we review on a relatively regular basis, or now because we've just discussed it, you'll take a look at it and maybe report back and we get an update at some point in the future how that review is coming along in terms of all our policies, where we're at. We're currently 105, but we've been able to successfully retire 1 or 2 and combine others, and we're down to maybe 100 or 90.
Yes. So through the chair, and we can bring back, our intention was to bring back an update at least annually on this. But internally, we do have a more detailed view of each of the policies, the status of the policy, and kind of what we're looking at doing potentially with the policy, working with the policy owners, and the amount of work that may be required. Some of the policies, for example, are on review cycles that are relatively short. So they have to come back for a review, but there may not be significant changes to the policy associated. So, and in terms of reducing the number of policies, I apologize. I don't have the number from last year where we started, but I know we are lower this year than we were last year.
Okay, good. All right.
Yeah, so
moving
I can't commit to
right.
significantly reducing, but we certainly will look to that. And as you can see, there are a number of policies across the different domains.
Perfect. Thank you. Anything further on this?
Mr. Chair, Jim has his hand raised.
Sorry, who? I didn't.
Jim Meeks.
Oh, Jim. Sorry. Go ahead, Jim. You need to
Under the
unmute. Thank you.
fast tracking the homeless, what segment of the homeless population is given priority?
Jim, through the chair. So Jim, are you talking about the way that priority is set for homeless getting into TSHC?
Yes. What segment of the homeless population gets priority when it comes to the fast tracking?
What I'm going to do, if it's okay, I know that
Based on the number of years they've been homeless, or is there other priorities?
so the policies and the process for homeless and others to get ultimately into Toronto seniors housing is a process that's managed through the City of Toronto. And possibly Brad, if you could speak to it. I know there are particular categories of applicants that they do consider on a priority basis. And there's about 5 or 6 different categories that they will use to help assess in the context of people trying to get into and looking to get into social housing. And I'm wondering if it's not a policy per se that's within TSHC's domain. However, it is something we have to adhere to.
Yeah, it's the city's policy, basically.
That's correct.
But is there any way to access that information that I can access?
Through the chair, we could certainly take this back. I mean, 1 in 5 of the applicants that get into TSHC buildings come in through, I think it's, what's, my apologies for the name of the code. Brad, can you help me out with that? If you wouldn't mind.
It's DA.
Yeah, so we
Yes,
have
the
the
DA.
disadvantaged that are 1 in 5, and we have the rapid rehouse clients that are an allocation that we've made with the city for the year that we work with through shelter, housing, and support.
Okay, thank you.
Brenda, was that your hand? Did you have a follow-up question?
So,
Go ahead.
yes, because I was rereading the report that was given to the Quality Tenant Engagement Committee on the is it rapid rehousing? Is that the phrase? Rapid, right? And I noticed there were different categories. The disadvantaged group, which was the pre-existing criteria, right? And then the rapid rehousing. What are the criteria for the rapid rehousing? Is it I know it's the city that determines that, but is it presumably age is one of them? Are they people who are currently homeless, or are they at risk of homeless? I don't know if you have any quick answers there.
Yeah, through the chair. The rapid rehousing clients are people who are currently in a shelter, and they work with a shelter worker before they're placed, and they do meet our age mandate as one of the criteria. Other than that, the other criteria, there's an assessment tool that the city staff use when assessing the compatibility with independent housing that we've worked on to refine the tool over the course of the project.
And that's for the rapid rehousing or the disadvantaged?
For the rapid rehousing. Disadvantage covers multiple different
yes, it does.
possibilities for people. And to Jim's point, the disadvantaged housing people are placed on its order of application. So the oldest applicants on the disadvantaged list are placed first.
That answers the question there. Is that's what I was interested in finding out, if it they're trying to take the people who've been unhoused for, some people I know personally that have been unhoused for over 10 years and have had their application in for over a year that are seniors.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right, Brenda, were you done with the questions? Sorry.
Yes, I am. Thank you.
All right, so thank you. Then we will move to the next item, item 12, 2024 annual report for information. And Arlene, that goes over to you. Thank you.
Thank you through the chair. I'm pleased to bring forward our draft 2024 annual report. As is the case, we bring forward the draft for your consideration and comments that we can take back if you have any changes. This is not the final copy. What you're seeing is really just a review of the copy as it exists today. It will be formatted with beautiful photos and quotes, and that'll come from staff, tenants, and partners in the final draft. But we will be bringing forward the final copy for approval to the board at the April meeting. Because I'm interim, I get to bring forward the interim the draft copy for your consideration. And we drew heavily on the work that we were doing. We did with the report that we took to the Economic Community Development Committee in October to inform a lot of this. And we also, the team has been working on putting together photographs and other items and charts and things like that that they will be using in the final publication that will be brought forward. So today we're just bringing it forward for your for information for the committee.
Okay, any questions for Arlene on this? Anyone? Okay, then Arlene, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was a good report. And we will now move to item 13. So this item is the IDEA strategy, diversity lens for, this is for approval. So Carol and Gurpreet, I believe you're going to go through this this particular report.
Yes, thank you, through the chair. Gurpreet Kaur Sodhi is actually our IDEA, Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, and Accessibility Advisor. She started with us in October 1st, essentially, and her contract has been extended to provide support as we go through this process. So I know that we have a presentation that Karen will put up. Just to provide a little bit of background and context with respect to the journey that we've taken from an IDEA perspective. In 2023, there was managers and a team that loosely based the IDEA committee, and they solely or mainly were looking to look at days of significance. And we moved into some recognition activities and events that the IDEA committee planned. In November of 2023, we had our first employee survey, and there was a portion of that related to demographics. And so with that information, the IDEA committee was more informed about the composition of our staff and some of the things that we wanted to plan and recognize with respect to significance. We then procured the service of Flex Survey in 2024, McLean's and Company in 2024, and they helped us to develop the IDEA framework, which you see the 4 pillars as the basis for the IDEA strategy. And then we also incorporated the survey data. When Gurpreet came on board, one of the things that she undertook was then meeting with our leadership team and understanding further and really deep diving into the survey data and the work that we did with McLean to start to compile the IDEA strategy that has resulted in what you have before you today in terms of the strategic plan, the diversity lens, the appendices, and then the terms of reference for the IDEA committee. And so what we the culmination of all this work is that we're looking at implementing this strategy in 3 phases. So the first phase is the immediate actions, and I can also say probably some of the actions we've been taking over the past definitely a year and a half into 2026. So looking at, building the foundation and our diversity lens integration. And then phase 2 will be expanding and deepening. So looking from 2026 to 2027 in enhancement, engagement, and a diversity lens application. And then in phase 3, looking at sustainability, integration, accountability, and a continuous review. And so at that point, we will review the strategy and then make updates as necessary as we go along. The one thing about this is that, it is a continuous process. It's not a static process. We will continue to review and refine as we go along. So Karen, do you have I don't see the actual presentation. Thank you. So when we look at phase 1, foundation and building, some of the activities that we will take is reviewing and aligning policies within that IDEA framework, looking at our diversity lens checklist, which is embedded in the document. Deliver IDEA training to all staff, emphasizing the application of the diversity lens in daily work. And I can tell you that Gurpreet, part of her the work that she's immersed in right now is identifying training that aligns with our strategy. And then activate the IDEA committee and foster an inclusive culture. So continue to work with the committee to look at things like different events, different group representation. Those are embedded in the terms of reference. And then phase 2, continuing to build on this. So looking at developing and implementing mentorship and buddy programs, transparent IDEA communication strategy, expanding wellness initiatives to address the needs of equity deserving groups and promote IDEA activities, ensuring diverse representation and input. And I would say that one is almost concurrent and continuous endeavor. And then in phase 3, again, it fully integrating in all aspects of TSHC's operations, looking at long-term sustainability, and again, that continuous evaluating and the effectiveness of our diversity lens. We want to ensure that we embed IDEA into all positions. Performance evaluations include IDEA principles, and then address inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility for people with disabilities. So continuation there. So at this point, I'll stop and I'll ask if there's any questions or comments.
Carol, thank you. And I believe you may have some questions or maybe not. Brenda? Yeah, go ahead. Please unmute.
Thank you. There's a lot here. So will you be continuing in your presentation, Carol? I'm not quite certain where you are.
I took the overall strategy. If you want me to go through a bit more in terms of the documentation, is that what you're looking for?
Not necessarily. I just didn't want to cut you off if you were going to be presenting more. Then my questions might be addressed in your continuing presentation. So
that's the presentation of the overall. We have, there's at least 3 large documents, and then the days are significant.
Yeah.
So I wanted to be mindful, but I can address questions, or Gurpreet, who's also on the call, address specific questions with regards to what we've put forward.
Well, a couple of the questions I had were on the advisory committee. Who is the membership of the advisory committee for your IDEA? Is it staff?
Yes, it's staff, all staff.
All staff, okay. So no outside community representation, so.
No, this is a staff-led.
Right.
And then they provide staff within the context of where we are in terms of with our tenants and relationships with our tenants. essentially a staff-led
Okay, I
committee.
understand. And I didn't see in the package here, have you chosen who will be on that committee?
Thank you. So we had an existing, so when I walked in, we had
Okay.
our regional operations managers.
Yeah.
Once we went through this process and once the terms of reference for the committee are approved by the board, we will then solicit members, volunteers for the committee. So right now
Okay.
it's named our PNC representatives, we have communications, we do have some staff who have volunteered, but in terms of a formalized process, once we have the terms of reference approved, then we will move to a formalized process of actually soliciting members for the committee.
Okay. I'd like to suggest, if I may, that you have representation from all facets of the organizations, not just managers, but some frontline people or, however you define it. But I just think we need a different perspective other than senior management or management. So if when you come back with the final materials, if you could indicate who the members are and what divisions they represent.
Yes, thank you.
I would also like to suggest, and I know it's maybe a little unusual, but I would like to suggest outside people as well to participate, to provide another set of eyes and ears who might have their own experiences helping other organizations develop and grow on these matters. That's just, I know that's a little perhaps unusual, but there are instances where there are advisory committees that often do have community representation. So I'll leave that with you for future decision. And lastly, I just lost my spot here. How frequent will you be reporting to the board on some of your outcomes? I couldn't quite get a sense here. Is it quarterly you'll be reporting to the committee, or how will it be? What will be the reporting and accountability piece?
So through the chair, the intention was to report annually. If the committee feels that they would like a more frequent update, then we would look at that. But the intention is to provide updates at least annually.
I believe Tom wanted to add to that response. Tom?
Yes, through the chair. I am sorry, Carol, but I had thought that we were going to do it twice a year, the reporting to. I would just like to stress one of the comments that when I raised my hand, one of the comments I want to make is, this is a key area of a strategy of work of implementation for us. And so, the accountability within our leadership team to deliver to the board on this particular element of our mandate. So I think that, we would want to look at, I think that frequency, a kind of a regular cadence would be important to the board.
I would agree with that. That would be my suggestion too. Because not only because it is key, but this is a very contentious area. We know lots of large organizations and corporations are abandoning the DEI principles. And so if we're going to continue with this, then we need to be nimble, right? And we need to be able to look at our outcomes and be able to respond if need be. So I would personally prefer at least twice a year.
Yeah, we'll start there. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. And that was it.
Okay. Sorry, it's twice. So is it once or is it twice a year now? Do we need a motion for that? No. Okay, so it is twice. Okay.
Through the chair, if I may.
Carol, sorry.
It was Carol. Yeah, Chair, if I may just go back to address the initial comment with respect to the IDEA Committee. So the IDEA Committee members are represented across the organization. However, when we have undertaken recognition of different events, we have solicited for volunteers from staff. So we have a good cross section. So when we had things like when we looked at Black History Month, Indigenous Heritage Month, Filipino Heritage Month, Pride, we were able to get a good cross-section of the organization, staff representing different parts of the organization to participate. At the regular meetings, we do have management, we have people in culture, we have communication, but we also have teams that represent operation. So there's a good cross-section. What we would like to do is expand with the formalized terms of reference and then invite again for people who are interested to participate, whether they participate in the idea committee itself or whether subcommittees are formed based on different groups that are represented within the organization. That will be determined once we put the call out again to solicit for members of the idea committee. Sorry, Brenda, you're on mute.
Sure.
Yeah. Brenda, we good? You're muted, Brenda. I just want to make sure that you're okay, and then we can move on.
Sorry.
Okay.
If I could make a suggestion that it not be so open-ended, I think it should be the institution wants to have certain representation on a committee. I don't think it should be the ethnic groups join the committee, you know, for their ethnic acknowledgement, etc. So I make a distinction between volunteers for cultural activities, annual events that you might want to organize. As I perceive the idea committee is more of a policy setting and direction setting committee and an accountability committee. So I would make a distinction in terms of membership there. And I think we should be more directive as to who we want to sit on that committee. So if you want, for example, 2 operations people, 2 senior management people, 2 whatever the categories are, and that we seek actively to get that representation. So I think it should be more intentional and not just open-ended. Otherwise, you're going to get everyone joining because they then want to celebrate their particular ethnic group activity. So that's not what, as I envision, and maybe I'm wrong. If I am, please correct me, how I see the idea committee. So that would be my suggestions, and I'd hope we could get some feedback on that.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Brenda, Carol, everyone. And we will now
Mr. Chair? Mr.
Yes.
Chair, excuse me, sorry. Linda Jackson has her hand raised and then followed by Farida Min.
I apologize. I didn't see that. Sorry, Linda. Linda, go
No,
ahead.
no problem. I have the same problem when I'm chairing. I can't see hand for some reason. So
Yeah, so
thank
many
you.
things on the screen and I did not see
Yeah,
that hand.
I'm the same. I'm the same. Thank you for letting me add it. Just a point. I was really impressed by the amount of work that has been done in this area. I was a little concerned in terms of how do we actually make this live? And I you know, it's just really something I'd really like us to consider. It's kind of like our policies were very good, and you know, at getting that. So maybe it's when the committee comes together. I was also struck by the training, the impact that there were certain populations of staff that were actually reporting less impact, and those are the groups that I'm, you know, that probably need this as well. But just thinking about how do we actually have some Coles versions? How do we make this, you know, kind of live in the day to day? Because the average person working in are very busy and are not going to take the time to, and nor are these documents there for that reason. But that was a piece that was kind of missing for me, Carol, and just something. And I'm sure that that's on your mind, but just a recommendation that we find some way, and that we particularly report on, you know, is it working? You know, in terms of, I attended one of the training sessions and I could see that different people are very much at different places, and that we're going to have kind of the Coles version and make it meaningful so that everybody sees, you know, why and how this actually. Also, because, you know, the other criticism is it's staff focused, which I think it should be. How does this impact our relationship with the tenants? And it's, you know, making that really clear that this is why we're doing this as well. So hopefully that's helpful, and just my observations, but thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And now I think Farid wants to weigh in as well. Farid? And
yeah,
Tom.
so very quickly, I mean, I just want to echo some of the sentiments expressed by Linda. I'm not going to repeat it, but I had that whole implementation actualization piece in my mind, and also how do we ensure that this stuff gets cascaded throughout the organization and doesn't just sit in the senior leadership team? And the other point I want to make very quickly, sorry, Tom, is the issue around systemic barriers. I see a lot of operational stuff, and that's really important and really necessary, Carol. The celebration of events, the celebration of milestone. But I worry a fair bit about some of those systemic barriers. I know you've spoken about them in the document as it comes to recruitment and hiring, but I don't see a lot when it comes to inclusion. So I would sort of, again, maybe ask us to take a step back and look at some of those systemic barriers, things that may not be obvious, that the organization has to sort of fundamentally get right before we move into these other areas. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Fareed. And Tom, I know you've been waiting in.
Hey, through the chair, thanks. And maybe just reflecting on some of these comments and then just, kind of encapsulating it. I think just really stressing that, the accountability for the IDEA strategy and its deliverables rests with, the leadership team and support of the organization. The IDEA committee is one of the mechanisms, a key mechanism to help enable that. But there is still, so when you're looking at, and for each of your point that you made around kind of the hiring process and how do we, that is more inclusive or reflective of IDEA or our policies, and that's where you see the different lenses that we had and the potential check marks. That we as leadership need to prioritize what are those areas, and I recognize that there will have to be kind of a resource or resources that are separated out and specific to help support this work. So this is the strategy, putting a frame around it, and excited to move it forward.
Tom, thank you. I agree. And so, Brenda, your hand's up. Go ahead and unmute, please, Brenda.
There. Following from these points and Linda's point, I think one of the ways around trying to make this real for people so you don't turn off people, because we've all been through any number of these exercises where sometimes the damage is worse than whatever good might have happened. Is the cultural competency part. I mean, I think that's important for people to be able to learn and feel comfortable in dealing with all of our tenants, all of our institution. And that's where training does come in. So I'm a big believer in training. To Fareed's point, I think it's quite important that we don't, that we make sure we don't just do the ethnic celebration, right? That if there need to be structural or some systemic or some institutional changes, to look at the barriers, the ways of participation and contribution. I think those are important things. And that gets at the institutional change that needs to happen. And I would include in that, and I noticed that missing piece is the board piece, which I know is controlled by City Hall Appointments Committee, that nominally I think has some of these goals too. But in terms of the total institution, there might be some need to have some reference to the impact of DEI on our board recruitment and retention, et cetera, et cetera. But I think it's always a balancing act between systemic institutional change versus just the soft-sided human resource side. I always believe that, DEI and diversity stuff is just good HR policy. If you can ground yourself with some of that, and then that helps. And I think you've done a good job on that, Carol, with a lot of the material, and yourself and the staff or whoever, whether it was the consultant people, I don't know, but the checklists are certainly very helpful, very thorough, very detailed. So that's a very good base to start. And but in order to balance out this need for recognition and representation, for Reed's point, let's not forget the institutional. And I will be looking at the hiring and retention and training piece, and the promotion piece as well. So in terms of my role as a board member, those things are important for me to review. Thank you.
And thank you, Brenda. Okay. Well, thanks everyone. Excellent comments. And I think that that was all very helpful, and appreciate it. Now what we need to do is just, we're going to move this motion. We need to approve it. So I'm asking for a mover and a seconder to approve this idea strategy report that we just heard. So,
So
Brenda, thank
so
you.
moved.
Brenda's moving. And seconder, Fareed. Thank you so much. And we will now move to item 14. So item 14 is, oh no, item 14, we're moving into closed session now. All right. So I need a mover and a seconder to move to closed session, and then we'll deal with the closed session items immediately
So
after
moved,
that.
Mr. Chair. It's Warren.
Warren, thank you, Warren, and seconded by Brenda. Thank you. All in favor, approved. We are now, wait till we get confirmation that we are in closed session.
What's the page number in our package for the close?
It's 219.
290.